and welcome back to another video. So today we are going to be going through all of my Inktober drawings. So as you know, October was a wonderful month and it has now finished. So I want to go over all of the ink drawings that I did over the month and just talk about them sort of more in depth. And that way you guys can get an overview of how my Inktober was. So starting out, I'm just gonna briefly explain what Inktober is. Inktober is when every single day for 31 days, or however many days you want, you don't have to do it every day, you draw a drawing in primarily ink. So I chose to do my Inktober in one color, and that is black, which is usually what most artists do. These are the pens I used. They were the Micron 0.3 and 0.1. And then if I really need to, I used my key pens. I got these off of Amazon a few years back, and they just work really well as a fine liner. This is what they look like. And Inktober is basically just, you find a prompt list for whatever fandom or whatever you want, and you just draw 31 of that thing. You could draw 31 different original characters. You could draw 31 pieces of fan art. So here's day one of my Inktober. Well, I guess the first 5 days, because I didn't do all 7 days on one page, and you'll see different compositions as I go along. But I love this page. Out of all of the pages that I did for Inktober, I think this one is the most pleasing to the eyes. I think it's really nice, and I just love how everything turned out. So as I was saying, all of the prompts that I used were from Rin Spirit Art, and it was just a giant 31 prompt list of a bunch of flowers. And according to Google, to add another layer to the challenge, I decided to use the meaning of the flowers. This is a very rough meaning. I didn't do a ton of research. I just was like, what's the meaning of this flower? And then whatever the first few search results were, I just used whatever word that made the most sense to me. And also so I didn't have any overlap, because a few flowers mean the same thing in a few different places, and you'll see that when we get there. So here's the first one. I love how this one turned out. I actually made a video on this one, so if you'd like to check it out, feel free to look at the other videos. I believe it's around 2 weeks back. And I love this one. I think the composition is really nice. I think the hatching was super well done, so hashtag go me. I like how the leaves look here. I like how the flowers are. And in all of the drawings, I tried to incorporate the flowers. So you will see that in several places. She's just wearing a hat and she's relaxing. So yeah, most of the prompts for these days are somewhat self-explanatory. Moving on, I have day 2, which is Agapanthus. I realized I never said these out loud, I only wrote them, so this is what it is. But this is supposed to be an older gentleman, because I felt like I don't really draw like older/adults very often, so this is what I wanted to do. And so he's giving flowers to most likely his wife. Moving on to day 3, which is Baby's Breath. I really like this one. I don't know why, but I feel like the composition looks really nice. I think that like her and the baby in the foreground, and then the flowers in the background. Even though the flowers are the main reason why I drew this, I think just like the mother being the forefront and then the flowers being the background are really, really great. Then going to day 3, which is Alum Rosum. This is avoidance, and I was a little confused on what to do for this one, just because like realistically, according to Google, they're called avoidance, or they mean avoidance based off, I think it was Greek, because they smell really bad. So realistically, you probably wouldn't have these in your house, but I mean, it's what I could think of. I like how dramatic the shadow is on this. I think it turned out really well. And the girl over here, she has white hair. I really wanted that to stand out, and it's more of a silhouette, and basically she's like, oh man, and so she's like avoiding taking care of the flowers. Moving on, we have Chrysanthemum. This is actually one of my original characters. His name is Alex. I did a video of him actually a few, I'd say months back. I think it was this year. And I associate him with chrysanthemums, and they are actually my personal favorite flower. I love chrysanthemums. I think they're absolutely stunning and beautiful. So that's, yeah, I'm really happy with this one. This one is also probably one of my favorites. I love this page. So moving on to the next few days. We have day 6, which is Cecilia's, which is Venti. In the game, it states that he is associated with this flower, and so I thought of him. And you'll notice if you check Rin Spirit's prompt list, I changed a few of the days just because some of the flowers either felt repetitive or I couldn't really find a good meaning. So a few of them I did change just because I really wanted to. This section right here are a lot of the flowers that I changed. So day 6 is Cecilia's. I like how this turned out. I think Venti looks cute. He's supposed to be singing. And then there's a flower in the foreground and the one that's supposed to be in his hat. Moving on, we have day 7, which is Rose. This is another one of my characters. Still deciding what I'm gonna do with my characters. But on this page, he is brothers with Alex down here, so you'll see him in the future. Then I have day 8 and day 9, which is Lily Pad. I really like how this one turned out. I don't know if it conveys it, but she's supposed to be in water. I think you can tell more in her hair where she's in water than on her face. But basically like the little like white bits on the edges, like outlining everything, is supposed to be like where the water is like, I don't know, touching her skin and stuff, so it gets lighter. And so yeah, that's just where it is. I really like how the hair turned out, and I think the lily pads are fun. I think Enlightenment is a fun one too. Then we have Delphium, which is big-hearted. This one is not one of my favorites. I feel like I like the sketch more than I like the inking, which is sometimes what happens when I do inking. Like, that's why I prefer doing it digitally. But yeah, I like how it turned out. I think the flowers look good, and I like how her hair looks. It's just the body I feel isn't proportional. I have Dutch Iris. My friend actually drew this, and she did so well, you guys. And so this is what she drew. I think it's really fun. I like all the like little details and how it's sort of like abstract, but you still see all the details. I don't know, I just love it. Going on from there and continuing, I have day 11, which is the English Bluebell, which is Constancy. If you notice all the little dots in the hand, I wanted to try stippling because it is not one of the inking techniques I use very often. If you're wondering what stippling is, it is basically where you draw a bunch of little dots to do shading. It's the same thing as hatching, which you can see in the heart right here. And hatching is just putting a bunch of lines close together to create darkness and depth. You'll see me do it a lot in a lot of my pictures. And I wanted to do stippling on the fingers to sort of convey shading, but it didn't really end up working out. But I still really like how this turned out. I love how the bluebells look. I think they actually look like the flower. Down here, I reverted to my alternate style, which is the freesia. Or not the freesia is the flower. But this is displaying friendship. And basically, I defaulted to my other style because I just wanted to do something simple for this day. I was quite busy in October, so honestly doing all 31, technically 30 because I skipped a day, of these prompts was a lot. And a lot of these I had to plan in advance. So it's really awesome that I just kind of took a break in a few of these. So these are two best friends, and they're just sitting, and then the flowers in the window, which I really like how that turned out. This is day 12. This is, again, the two brothers that I talked about earlier. I like how the flowers turned out. I think it's cute. I didn't do a ton of shading on this one, but I think it still turned out fine. Moving forward to day 14, we have Goldenrod, which is good fortune. I like how this one is. I feel like the composition is cute. I think it like looks nice. I think the flower being on the medallion is cool. Just the general like swoop of everything. I think your eyes really track everything, and I like how this hand turned out too. Next we have day 14, which is Hyacinth, which is peace. And I imagine the little story behind this one is like there's probably two kingdoms who are at aught with each other. And the king, in a sign of, you know, like being peaceful, either has to give up a hyacinth and propose peace with the other kingdom, or pick up the sword. You know, I thought it was cute. I think it was nice. I wish his crown was a little bigger though. But I really like how the hatching on this one turned out, and how like his advisor or just helper is sort of there with him. Moving forward, we have Jacob's Ladder. This is another one that I changed the meaning of. The Google kept giving me different things, so I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna take it literally, and it means going up. This is one of the more detailed flowers I ended up doing. I like how she's like standing on it like it's a ladder, and I did a more simplified version of the girl here. Next up is Lily of the Valley. So this is also another one of my favorites in the entirety of this sketchbook. I love how this looks. So the story behind this, because I posted all of these on Instagram, by the way, shameless plug, at Glitterbees Unite for Instagram. I had written in the caption how I love this one because it conveyed such a story. So I imagine that this girl is like really sad for whatever reason, and she, like in a non-literal sense, finds happiness by cracking the glass that is shielding her from getting to the happiness, which is the lily of the valley. So that's why it's return to happiness, because she was crying and then now she's happy because she broke the glass to get to the happiness. You know, I thought it was really creative and deep, and I don't know, I loved it. And it was really fun to draw, so, you know, a win-win. Next up is the next few days. I did an average about 4 on each page, sometimes 5, depending on how I did the composition. So here is day 18, which is Magnolia, and that is stability. I drew Lumine from Genshin Impact, so another one of the fan art days besides Venti. I like it. It's very plain, very cute, very simple. I don't know, it just gives me good emotions. Day 19. I thought this one was also very creative. This is Moonflower, and I took it literally, which is moon. And basically, the premise of this is that the moonflower, like the actual plant, is the moon, and then the person would realistically be holding the flower, but instead, she is holding the moon. You see how that kind of like played out? Moving forward and moving onward. We have day 20, which is Nemophila, I believe that's how you say it, which is forest lover. And I took this very literally. I drew a wonderful person in a field of flowers, and I just put the flowers in the foreground. These days were very self-explanatory. Powder puff meaning fire. This one is a very simple day, very much just a hand and the plant, and I think it turned out well. I'd love to explore this concept again, as I think it was really fun, and I don't know. I liked it. Day 22 is Queen's Anne's Lace, and I did not set up a perspective grid for this, but I did just like copy a reference. I talked about that in the Instagram caption that I posted this as well. I really like the scale of it. Like, I feel like the person actually feels very small and the sanctuary feels very large. Just in general, I think I captured the vastness of this, and the plant is a little medallion in the back. So we have day 23, which is Ranunculus, which means little frog. I was a little surprised when Google gave me this result because it was like the first one, and it was like, oh yeah, this flower means little frog, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll take that literally. So here's my little frog. I don't draw very stylized animals very often, but yeah, so I think I like the contrast between a very like semi-realistic flower and then like a very simple, just like little guy. Day 24 and day 25 technically relate to each other. So Snapdragon and Snowdrop, this is strength to endure the summer, because I found out that snapdragons usually bloom in the summer where it's quite hot. And then Snowdrop is used as the flower indicating the first spring. So this is growing in the middle of winter, so you see the mountains and the snow plains. All in all, I like how these two turned out. I think they relate, and I like how the composition reflects each other. So this one's on the left side and this one's on the right side. I'm not sure once I start editing this, the camera will flip it, but that's just how it's happening. Then we have day 26, which is Sweet Pea, which is goodbye. I imagine this is a college student just graduating and they're going into adulthood or just the real world. And they have sweet peas from presumably her parents. Day 27 is Trumpet Vine. This is another one I took literally, and basically the trumpet vine is the music part. Oh, I forgot to connect the places right here, but it's supposed to be connected to wired headphones. And now you see the big space. I'm just gonna kind of, gloss over that. You can see the ghostings of a sketch right here, but this was supposed to be day 28. However, if you remember, I had changed the prompts earlier. So that was supposed to be Lily Pad, and day 28 was also Water Lily from Rin Spirit. So I just ended up changing that. Day 29, I also accidentally skipped. I didn't mean to, but I do have the last few days, which is day 30, Wisteria, and it's mystical. So I drew a giant wisteria tree, which is quite fun to fill in actually. And then I drew a unicorn. I have not drawn horse/horse silhouettes in a very long time. Your girl doesn't really do animals, so I do really like how it turned out though. I think it's very, very fluid. And then finally, day 31, I have Yellowed Eye Grass, which is Halloween dress up. So I imagine she used the plants as like a cosplay for hair. And I decided to take a little bit more time with this one, so the shading and the hatching plus the liner is a bit more methodical. And yes, so that is my Inktober. I will give you all a short overview, and then we will conclude. So here we are doing the overview. I quite like how this Inktober turned out. This is the first Inktober I've fully committed to. I did try to do Inktober, I believe it was last year or the year before that, and I only got to around day 12 to 14, I believe. And I really liked that I was able to sit down and do Inktober to its fullest this year. I'm not sure if I will full commit to it next year because it was a lot of work and I was quite busy, so it was kind of hard to get all the prompts out. However, I think in the end it was worth it. Next year I will most likely pick and choose, or maybe even make my own prompt list, as I think that could be fun. And here are the last few days. So I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to support me, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!